Well, as we discussed yesterday in the previous conference, although we broke down the perimeter at approximately midnight the night before, or yesterday actually, we didn't pull out all of our resources. We continued to have people in the area conducting surveillance on the area where he was last seen in an effort to see if perhaps he popped out of somewhere we just weren't familiar with or hadn't seen him at. We also had identified some family members and some locations that we felt were within close enough proximity that he may try to seek refuge at. We continue to conduct surveillance on those areas as well. During that time period, we identified a female that was alleged to be his girlfriend. We were of the understanding of the knowledge of what vehicle she drove. We had contact with her. She previously allowed us to search her vehicle, and we were aware that she hadn't assisted him at that point. However, that vehicle was seen in the area throughout the night, driving through, and which led our investigators to believe that she was trying to find him or try to provide assistance, or at the minimum try to locate him in some form of fashion. So we continue to home in on her as someone who's actively seeking to assist him in some way. We monitored her vehicle, conducted surveillance, and ultimately discovered that she was frequently going to a location down in South Palm Bay, or Northwest Palm Bay. I consider everything in Palm Bay south of us. So, but the actual street was Catella. It's down kind of near Heritage Parkway in Malabar. And I don't necessarily believe he was able to get that far on foot, but it is possible given the time frame. However, like I had advised, our investigators were noticing that her vehicle was there for extended periods. She was spending time down there. So they made contact with the resident of that home, who ultimately gave permission to search the house. Our officers gave announcements to the house. Nobody acknowledged being in there. They began conducting a search, which included a canine. They located Mr. Jerry trying to conceal himself in between a wall and a bed with some blankets over him. The dog alerted to that area. They restrained the dog while the officers were able to go in and actually remove him from that area and take him into custody at that point.
So is anybody else facing charges right now for harboring him or helping him?
We're evaluating that. We don't necessarily have the level of evidence to prove that these individuals actually physically picked him up, harbored him. Getting past that threshold is a bit difficult, but we are evaluating that and trying to determine whether or not we can charge somebody with that.
Can you explain what you mean by that? Because to the average person, it sounds like having somebody in your house that's actively wanted and very publicly wanted would be harboring somebody.
Yes, but someone may have defense that they weren't home all day, they didn't frequent the house all day. They have a large house. Perhaps they could be hidden in an area of the house where the people don't go regularly. I mean, the people could come up with all kinds of defenses in this situation to say, listen, I just wasn't aware that this person was in the home, and I cooperated by letting you in my home. So that is where we are at right now. Like I said, the resident did allow us to go into the home and search it. So, a reasonable person might believe that he didn't know that the guy was there. So we have to overcome that in our proof that they assisted and coordinated. And the girlfriend wasn't at the home at the time we located him. So we can't necessarily link that specifically to her in the house at that point.
Even though she kept frequenting, bouncing back and forth.
Yes, and it's a matter of, although she was in the area, proving she was actually in the house, those are the types of things that we have to look at over the course of the day. Do we have that? And the investigators are trying to put that together because obviously we had different shifts, different people. The information's relayed to the different officers and they're putting these things together. But are we going to be able to come up with that? And we have time to evaluate that right now, and that's what we're doing.
The resident at the home, what kind of relationship does that person have with the suspect?
I'm not certain as to what their previous relations are there.
Did he obviously beat up two of your officers once? Did he try that again at the house?
No, there was, a little bit of resistance as they were trying to remove him from that. As you can envision, a bed being kind of close to a wall, and so it wasn't the ideal situation trying to pull him out. He did stiffen a bit, but when you have a canine and an overwhelming number of people, he complied for the most part. They did, over the course of trying to remove him from that, they did end up trying to take him to the ground. He did bump his head on like a nightstand that was there. So once again, we ended up back at the hospital with him. Although I will tell you, this time he was wearing shackles as well as handcuffs, and we took extra steps to make sure that we did not experience the same thing again.
Did he say anything in the course of being arrested, afterwards at the hospital, anything at all?
No, I was advised that he had already sought legal counsel and was advised by them not to say anything to us.
I want to circle back to a couple things we talked about yesterday that were a little up in the air at
Yes.
this point. You talked about the medical issue that led to all of this. We weren't certain yesterday if HIPAA applied here. We've done our research. HIPAA does not apply to police departments.
Okay.
So what was the medical issue?
Well, he was describing some substances that he had ingested at certain points, and the jail has a pretty strong policy that if someone indicates they've ingested certain substances, that there's a potential for overdoses, there's a potential for medical conditions to come about, and out of caution, they require medical clearance in those situations.
Why would this complaint of substances require his hands to be handcuffed in front of him rather than behind?
That we're still reviewing the officer's actions and trying to determine why they made the decision to do that. And at this time, I haven't been involved in that aspect of it. These particular officers are not in my chain of command. So we do a thorough review process of uses of force and situations like this, and his direct supervisory group will review that and make determinations there, and we just haven't completed that yet.
So what steps have been taken so far in that review?
As with any review, they're going to review the supervisors. First, the reports have to be written. The videos from the body cam, from the cars, any additional video we may receive from the hospital, any other locations that we may have received, those all have to be submitted. And then the supervisory staff, it'll go through the sergeant, the lieutenant, the commander of patrol in this situation, deputy chief, and they'll review all of those items and make a determination if the officer's actions were appropriate. And if not, what happened and how we plan to deal with those situations.
So at this point in time, we still don't know if procedures were followed correctly with the handcuffs or not that would have allowed him to slip out, and that's...
Correct. We're still reviewing that aspect of things.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to follow up with you on was the warrant and the nature of it. I understand this probably wasn't your case back in 2019, and that might lead to... Have you been able to figure out why this warrant was written, since that case was closed 7 years ago?
I haven't been able to determine that personally, no.
Do you know which agency the warrant came from?
Brevard County Sheriff's Office.
I guess to end this, we had a day where you described the person yesterday as not a threat to the community, despite beating up 2 officers. At the end of the day, there was a lot of people that were worried yesterday about a fugitive who beat up officers being on the streets. Are you confident that this agency will be taking steps? No. Let me phrase it this way. Is this agency confident that this situation is not going to be repeated?
We will do everything in our power to correct any deficiencies, provide adequate training, and we will review this. This will likely become part of our in-service training plan for a future. Every year we conduct advanced training with our officers, recertifications, realignment, and the high liability aspects of our job, such as firearms, defensive tactics, the taser, which is included in defensive tactics, all of these types of things, de-escalation, all of those things are usually touched upon annually through retraining, and the officers are generally doing anywhere between 48 and 80 hours of advanced training a year, depending on what we have planned for the year. And that during part of our review each year to progress into the next year, we do reviews of these types of situations, and we incorporate those things into it. We have taken great steps to provide our officers with the best training available. We send our trainers to classes all over the country. We incorporate, and we have been incorporating scenario-based training into our training systems for years, decades actually. We were very progressive in our form of training. So these types of situations will be utilized in that future training. They'll be identified as soon as we do conduct this review and we determine there's some deficiencies or whether there are. Our lieutenants at their squads will be, conducting, review with their employees, indicating what we could potentially be looking for, and try to make sure that our officers are prepared as a whole. So immediately we'll be doing a review. Following that, we'll be making recommendations and getting that information out to our supervisors so they can prepare. If we have to, we'll actually go to squads and conduct, refresher training with people if we need to. And in the back end, we will absolutely be incorporating stuff like this into our future in-service training.
And you said the 2 officers here were veterans. If it turns out they didn't follow policy, what's the disciplinary process?
It'll depend on their history, and obviously this is an extreme situation where someone got away from us, and that's not something that is acceptable. And we will review that, and we'll look at their history, what has occurred, if they've been previously disciplined, whether there's a situation of escalating or advancing that level of discipline. But it could be anywhere from retraining, to potential termination. But we just have to evaluate the level of extent that perhaps things happened.
2 cleanup questions. I just missed 2 aspects. The girlfriend, how long were you following her for? Was this a couple of hours? Most of the day?
Well, we started noticing after we broke down our perimeter that her vehicle was in the area, so we loosely conducted surveillance on her vehicle and utilized electronic means to determine some areas that she was going as well. And off and on through that 24-hour period, we didn't have eyes on her the entire time, but we were pretty homed in on where she was going, given her behaviors.
So by the time we were talking yesterday.
Yes.
Did you take her in for questioning?
They've had contact with her and talked to her numerous times. So, yes.
What is she saying?
She's not really saying anything that would indicate her assistance in the matter. She was cooperative with allowing us to search her car numerous times. She was, but outside of that, she's not providing anything that would incriminate herself.
Last.
How far is it from the hospital to the home where he was caught?
The hospital's 250 North Wickham, and the house he was located at was it was just north of Malabar Road. I haven't done a map search, but to get there on foot would take a considerable amount of time. So did he get there on foot? It's not impossible. People can do it, but it's more likely he found some kind of assistance somewhere along the line.
The other cleanup question I had, the jail, with this drug complaint. We know the jail has its own medical staff.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's drugs, they won't even take a look at him?
When we take someone to the jail, they conduct a number of questions, and they generally see a nurse or some form of intake personnel. And yes, because they have to accommodate and monitor the entire jail population, if they were to accept, and unfortunately it's a fairly frequent event where people will either actually have done these things and we have to be cautious because there is a true threat, or someone says they have because they're either wanting to delay the time frame that they're going to jail, or perhaps devise a plan to, get away. They may, feign it, but we have to act on caution there. And had he, and this happens, you go to arrest somebody, the person sees you approaching, they know they have, drugs on them because they're either selling them or it's for their own purpose. They will ingest that to try to dispose of that, to get rid of it if they have an opportunity where the officers don't see them or something happens. So we've had a number of those situations where people ingest the drugs to try to prevent being caught with them, and ultimately they start showing decline in health, and it has an adverse effect on them. We have to be cautious in that situation. We don't want an in-custody death. We don't want the sheriff to, experience an in-custody death because of someone we brought up there.
Just to follow up on that, I know from watching Live PD, it is a common occurrence. For Melbourne and for Brevard County, for your agency, how common is this? These officers have clearly been through this before. Is this a daily thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Daily.
Yeah, we have to do medical clearances. I would wager to say every day.
Okay. When did he make this complaint? Was it immediately upon putting the cuffs in? Was it on his way to the jail? And
once they put him in the vehicle and started transporting.
I think I'm finally out of questions. Omar?
You guys brought our units yesterday, but how are the officers?
They are obviously, physically they're fine, and obviously there's an emotional side that goes along with this. We are our biggest critics. Nobody comes into this job and wants to do a poor job or have something happen that adversely affects our community. We want to do the right thing at all times. It just, at the same time, we are human and mistakes are made at times.
Did he push the one officer down? How did he get away from two officers at the same time?
He pushed the one down. The other attempted to try to take him to the ground. That officer actually did receive some minor abrasions and injuries during that process. And then as the other officer was trying to get up to regain and take control, he was able to break free and run.
Was this a matter of seconds?
Oh, it happened fairly quickly, yes. And like I said yesterday, as hard as we train, as hard as we prepare, as strong as we think we may be, I'm 52 years old, so a 25-year-old guy that's equal size, he's probably going to have an advantage on me at that point and be a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, and unfortunately that was the case.
Officers abrasions, was he being punched in the head?
No, when he was attempting to take the Mr. Jerry to the ground, I believe obviously they're on concrete, and anytime you have contact with somebody, there's a chance of skinning your knee, going down hard, getting a bruise. It's anytime we actively conduct physical contact with somebody, there's a chance for them to get hurt, and there's a chance for us to get hurt.
So he's trying to take him down.
Yes. He initially broke free from the one officer. The other officer went to grab on, attempted to take him to the ground. That's when he fought back against that officer, and then as the other was trying to get up, he was able to break free from both, and then he was just quicker.
Was this inside the hospital or just outside the hospital?
Just outside.
Okay.
So they were transferring from the car to a wheelchair to try to place him in a position of disadvantage, and unfortunately it happened during that time.
You covered this yesterday, but was there video of any of this, whether from the hospital or from...
There is. Our records department is actively going through. I actually checked in with her as I was coming down here. She's actually reviewing the camera footage right now. We have to be careful when we reproduce video to redact for privacy concerns. So because we were in the hospital or proximity to the hospital, there could be potential for having to redact some things there. We went into the home to recover him at that point. There's some privacy issues with that. So they're going through the video now and conducting the redaction that's necessary, and then also just consulting with supervision and our legal team to make sure that we're able to release that. So we're actively doing these things all at the same time so that we can release them as soon as possible.
And if it turns out you can release at least a portion of it, the agency does plan on releasing this
Yes, we're Florida, so we're gonna release everything that we're obligated or permitted by state statute. We're not looking to violate that, and we're not looking to hide anything. I do recommend, and I mentioned this, I know some of you have emailed me back from the press release email saying, hey, we want video. I will attempt to get all of those, forwarded over, but I imagine you could suspect how many emails are going in that one chain of emails. So I do always recommend make the request to our PD records at mlbfl.org. That way it goes into their system. They are able to document it. They're able to identify it, put it as an open request, and then make sure you're getting it. That's the best way for efficiency-wise, to make sure you get in these things.
I actually have a question this time.
Sure.
All right.
That's all I got.
Cool. And we are looking to improve we're purchasing a FOIA software system that we're going, in the future, it'll make the efficiency of our public records requests a lot simpler, and we'll be able to get ahead of some of these types of events and actually put some of that stuff in a queue where you guys would be able to actually just go and physically get it. So that's coming. We're in the process of purchasing it, but it'll take time to get that up.